Good evening. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The news at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories and the big development that happened today. The monsoon session of Parliament ended and we'll be getting a special report on that, what business was transacted and whatever little of it was transacted rather. On that note, we'll slip into the headlines first. Capping over 4 weeks of protests and acrimony, the monsoon session of Parliament comes to an end. Both houses adjourn sine die. Political fight continues outside Parliament. Leaders of Congress and NDA face off over who is responsible for the washout of the session. The Bombay High Court revokes ban on Maggi noodles, also orders fresh tests, even as it says the food regulator's ban was arbitrary and violated principles of natural justice, ending days of uncertainty. Pakistan confirms that Sartaj Aziz will arrive in New Delhi for NSA-level talks with India on the 23rd of August. And the rupee hits a new two-year low at 65.23 per dollar amid unsettled global financial market as China devalues yuan for a third day in a row. Well, our top story this evening, the monsoon session of Parliament ended today. Both houses were adjourned sine die. From daily protests by the opposition to the suspension of 25 Congress MPs for 5 days, the session witnessed a lot of drama. The opposition protested over various issues, including the Vyapam scam, the Lalit Modi scandal, and even demanded for the release of the findings of the caste-based census. Both houses of Parliament were adjourned sine die today.
With most of the monsoon session washed out, Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan expressed disappointment with the way proceedings were disrupted this time.
I had to take this tough action as a last resort and a last option. I'm sure that the chair will not be forced to resort to this step in future. In the current session, however, I am pained to say that we lost more than 34 hours due to interruptions.
The Vyapam scam and Lalit Gate were the main reasons proceedings were disrupted, so much so that 34 hours were lost to the uproar, while just a little over 47 hours proved fruitful. The monsoon session witnessed 7 sittings of the Lok Sabha. During this time, 10 bills were tabled, out of which 6 were passed in the lower house. A discussion on sustainable development goal was also held. The last day also witnessed opposition protests. Parties including the Congress, left parties, Samajwadi Party and the RJD walked out over their demands.
Unfortunately, our friends from the main opposition party have chosen to go out of the house on some pretext or other. So I don't want to pursue it today because the last day I wanted to end with a smooth and happy note. So I request the Speaker that we will be taking up this legislative business in the next session of the Parliament.
The situation was not much different in Rajya Sabha. More than 82 hours were lost to disruptions. In the 17 sittings in the upper house, just over 9 hours of work was done. 3 bills were withdrawn by the government and 2 appropriation bills were returned. The issues of the opposition protests were the same in Rajya Sabha too. But the government was also cornered over the non-implementation of the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, signing of the Naga Peace Accord and the appointment of the Governor of Bihar. However, on the last day, peace prevailed.
Because let us have a adjournment on a peaceful note. Therefore, adjournment on a peaceful note.
Sir, I agree that we should end with a
peaceful note.
Peaceful and happy note.
Yeah.
Adjourn the House to 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock we'll have...
Yeah, we will have that. Okay.
The government was on the offensive in both houses this time. Even as it expressed willingness to discuss all contentious issues, it also accused the opposition of indulging in obstructionist politics, thereby impeding the country's growth story. With inputs from Pranav Goswami and Kriti Mishra, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And after both the houses were adjourned sine die, the two warring sides took to the streets. While the Congress held protests against the government's attitude on several issues, the NDA leaders took on the opposition, especially the Congress, holding them responsible for the washout of the entire session.
Two protest rallies led by two sides inside the House. The rhetoric, which was almost a daily affair during the entire monsoon session, spilled onto the streets now. A day after no-holds-barred discussion inside Parliament on the Lalit Gate issue, Congress party fired another salvo at the Prime Minister. Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi urged the PM to bring back Lalit Modi to face the legal process.
मैं उनसे चुनाव लड़ा, मुझे लगता था ठीक है हम चुनाव हार गए, मगर आदमी में दम है, मुझे ये लगता था। मुझे आज लग रहा है कि आदमी में दम नहीं। आपके लिए बहुत बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, ललित मोदी को पकड़ के यहां लाओ और क्रिकेट की सफाई करो।
The NDA leaders led by Home Minister Rajnath Singh, LK Advani and Ramvilas Paswan held a counter rally which they termed a Save Democracy March against opposition's protests that have led to a wasted session. During an NDA meeting, Prime Minister Modi compared Congress's attitude to that of during the emergency.
जो देश में इमरजेंसी लगाया गया, आज वैसा ही व्यवहार कांग्रेस पार्टी ने इस सदन में पिछले 15 दिन में प्रदर्शित किया है। छोटे छोटे टोलियों में जाएंगे, हमारे सांसद जाएंगे, हमारे मंत्री जाएंगे और गांव-गांव के कोने-कोने में जाके बताएंगे कि किस प्रकार से देश में जो लोकतंत्र के माध्यम से गरीबों का विकास होना है, कांग्रेस पार्टी आज बेचैन अवस्था में उसे रोक रही है।
The delay in the passage of the GST bill will make it tougher to meet a deadline of next April for its launch. The PM has the option of calling a special sitting of Parliament to pass the bill before the next scheduled session in the winter. The Finance Minister said today a decision has not yet been taken on this. With inputs from Vishal Dhaya and Shyam Sundar, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And our correspondents Vishal Dhaya and Shyam Sundar have been covering the entire developments through this monsoon session of Parliament, and we're joined now by Shyam Sundar to help us understand. Shyam, we saw finally the protest spill out of the House, and it seems that in the coming days both the opposition and the government would continue to trade charges over who's responsible for the entire washout of the monsoon session of Parliament this time around, but also a lot of legislative business, crucial legislative business could not be taken up as well.
Well, Ishan, it was unprecedented when ruling party BJP and its allies, they came on the street and they were holding placards and they walked from Vijay Chowk to Gandhi statue in Parliament, and they raised slogans and they said they are marching to save the democracy. We haven't seen this in last few years in Parliament, so it was unprecedented. And the real issue is that in the beginning of the session, government also didn't try to reach out and talk to the Congress and other opposition parties, and we have seen that government was also adamant. So, but in last days, though Mr. Venkaiah Naidu called a all-party meeting, but it was very late, and but in the last 2 days, government was very aggressive, and the government was trying to brand Congress as anti-development, and we have seen that on the second last day of the session in the Lok Sabha, adjournment motion was admitted by the Speaker on the request of Foreign Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu. And we have seen that in the last 2 days, BJP and Congress were fighting perception battle, and the battle was that who is responsible for the washout of the monsoon session. And we have seen that last day also this battle continued, and after that Jaitley was really upset because the way he attacked Congress, that Congress is responsible for GST, and he claimed that even in Rajya Sabha government had the numbers with it, but with the lung power, BJP ensured that GST is not passed in the Rajya Sabha.
All right, Sham, if we quickly talk about the fact of the Congress's demand as far as the resignation of the ministers go, now that adjournment motion happened, we saw both sides speak, in fact, from Sushma Swaraj to on the opposition benches, the Rahul Gandhi even stepping in over there. So how do you see this playing out in from here on? Because the demand as far as the Congress party goes would still remain for Sushma Swaraj's resignation.
Well, Ishan, this matter is not closed. I asked Congress leaders today, and we have seen in Lok Sabha that again Congress MPs were in the well, and they were again holding placards, and they were demanding the resignation of Sushma Swaraj, Vasundhara Raje, and Shivraj Chauhan. For Congress, they say that adjournment motion, earlier their demand was first resignation and then discussion, and government was asking first discussion and then they can talk about the resignation. So they say that Congress agreed that that we let's have a discussion, but that doesn't mean that Sushma Swaraj and other chief ministers Vasundhara Raje and Shivraj Chauhan are clean. So that demand stands, and we have seen Congress talking in the same tone.
All right, we're also joined by Vishal Dahiya, our correspondent, who's been covering all the proceedings of Parliament as well. And Vishal, coming to you, I've spoken to Sham about what happened with the protest today and the strategy of the Congress party. But one of the demands that the Congress had, and it was consistent throughout, that the Prime Minister should come and speak on the matter. Now, that demand, of course, wasn't maintained, but the government had said that they could relent. How do you see things progressing from here? Because it had been a complete communication breakdown between the opposition and the government.
Well, yes, you're right, Ishan. In fact, there are two issues if you look at it from the Congress's point of view. One is the government's response to their demands on Lalit Gate and Vyapam issue. Now, with regard to that, the Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi also made a statement in the day earlier. And just a short while ago, the former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram has held a press conference. Both these senior leaders have put forth the party's point of view, which is pretty clear that they are not satisfied by the reply which was given by Sushma Swaraj and Arun Jaitley, two senior ministers of the government, inside the parliament yesterday. They say that their questions remain unanswered and they will continue to raise those questions. So as far as those two issues are concerned, the Congress party's stand remains unchanged. Now, the second most important point with respect to the government is the GST bill, something which the government has been putting forth on its priority on the priority of its agenda since last 2-3 days. We've seen it being listed in the upper house, but that was not, there was no way the bill could have cleared the upper house hurdle without the Congress members letting the house run, smoothly. So on GST also, the Congress has once again clarified today that they are okay with the GST bill, but then they have three fundamental objections and certain other points as well. Now, those objections and points will have to be taken in consideration by the government. They will have to respond to that. Until and unless that happens, they will not be agreeable to the present GST bill which has been put forth in the parliament. So clearly, these three important issues, the Congress has made it stand clear. So it's highly unlikely that there is a breakthrough as of now. It seems what is required maybe right now would be once again a set of dialogue or chain of dialogue between the government and the opposition to try and iron out the issues. At least there might be differences on Vyapam and Lalit Gate issue, but as far as GST bill is concerned, which the government says it is on high priority, the opposition, the main opposition, Congress, says that the government should go ahead and come forward, approach them on those three issues, try and build a consensus. So until that happens, the Congress has made it clear that they are in no mood to compromise on the Lalit Gate and Vyapam issue as well as on the GST.
All right, on that note, we'll have to wrap it up. But Vishal and Sham, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the opposition and the government strategies in the days ahead now that the monsoon session of Parliament is over. Now, moving on, and after days of uncertainty, Pakistan has confirmed that Sartaj Aziz will come to India for the NSA-level talks on the 23rd of this month. The Pakistani NSA said that he will be holding talks with his counterpart Ajit Doval in New Delhi. The decision to hold NSA-level talks was taken when the Prime Ministers of the two countries met in Ufa last month, but the final decision to attend the meeting was only taken after Sharif's approval, who returned last night from a 3-day visit to Belarus. Both sides are tight-lipped about the agenda of the meeting, though. However, India is expected to highlight the issue of terrorism in the backdrop of 2 terror attacks in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. According to sources, Pakistan is also preparing to counter India's charges during the meeting.
At India's request, the two prime ministers met in Ufa, Russia on the 10th of July, and they agreed that the two national security advisors will meet in Delhi, and so I'll be going there later this month on 23rd of August.
Now, the NSA level talks will be held under the cloud of two major terror strikes in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir recently, as well as ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Firing along the line of control and the border continue, leaving villagers at the front line in a state of panic.
Pakistan violated ceasefire for the fifth consecutive day along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. Mortar shells were fired at residential areas in Poonch. According to the security officials, the heavy firing was an apparent bid by Pakistan to help militants infiltrate into Indian territory.
पिछले 4-5 दिन से पाकिस्तान की तरफ से मॉर्टर शेलिंग भी हो रही है और छोटे हथियारों से भी फायर हो रहा है। तो हमें जैसे कि एसएसपी साहब ने हुक्म बख्शा है कि जिस तरह भी फायर होगा, रात को अगर कहीं फायर होता है तो सुबह हमें वहाँ पे एसओजी साथ लेकर तो उस इलाके की सर्च करते हैं, कहीं पाकिस्तान ने फायरिंग की आड़ में क्रॉसिंग तो नहीं करवा दी।
The constant firing has left residents of border villages horrified. Schools and other educational institutions in the area have remained shut for most of the week.
तकरीबन 15 दिन से कंटिन्यूसली यहाँ पे फायरिंग हो रही है, जिससे हमारे जो है यहाँ गांव के जो लोग हैं बहुत परेशान हैं। खास करके हमारा जो स्कूल्स हैं तो बच्चे जो हैं वो यहाँ पर पढ़ाई के लिए बहुत परेशान हैं।
In Shopia, a grenade blast near a mosque left 8 people injured. In another grenade attack by suspected militants in Srinagar's Khanyar area, 4 police and a CRPF personnel were injured. The attacks on security forces and ceasefire violations have put strains on relations too. The Indian Army has refused to exchange sweets with its Pak counterpart on the Independence Day, which has been a custom for long. It remains to be seen if all these developments will have its effect on the NSA talks later this month. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, in a first ministerial trip after Iran struck a nuclear deal, its Foreign Minister Jawad Zarif will visit India from the 14th of August. Zarif arrived in Pakistan today for a day-long visit where he met Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. During his India visit, Zarif will call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and hold talks with his Indian counterpart Sushma Swaraj. Zarif will also hold talks with Nitin Gadkari, who visited Tehran in May when the nation signed an agreement to develop the Chabar port, located on Iran's southeastern coast. The visit also comes in the backdrop of Iran inviting Indian investments of about $8 billion in infrastructure projects there. Time for a very quick break right now. Coming up on the other side, the death toll rises to 44 in a massive explosion that rocked China's port city of Tianjin. More on that on the other side.
What we need in this country is a kind of respect for science. I think scientists would value social respect even more than money. The investments in science and technology are actually falling. They have to increase. Don't start doing something that's already fashionable. Find an area that is not fashionable today and try to make it fashionable tomorrow.
Watch Eureka with Professor R. Gadakkar, Professor at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, on Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, the rupee reversed early gains to fall below the key 65 per dollar mark on Thursday. After hitting a low of 65.23 per dollar, it closed at 65.10. The two-year low comes after September 2013, when the country was struggling with slow growth and rising deficits. The rupee's fall has been intensified over the last 3 days following China's unexpected devaluation of its yuan currency. China cut the reference rate for yuan for the third straight day today. The central bank put the yuan's central parity at 6.4010 yuan per US dollar, a drop of 1.11% from Wednesday's 6.3306. The new rate comes after China adopted a more market-oriented method of calculating the currency rate in a move widely seen as devaluation. Now, in a major relief for Nestlé, the Bombay High Court today lifted the nationwide ban on its instant Maggi noodles brand Maggi. The court said fresh tests are required to prove that the popular snack does not contain excess lead.
Maggi noodles may soon make a comeback in the shops. The Bombay High Court quashed a June 5 order of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, banning the brand and its 9 variants. A 2-judge bench of the Bombay High Court said the food regulator acted in an arbitrary fashion and did not follow principles of natural justice. It, however, added that in order to justify its ban, the FSSAI may test 5 samples of Maggi in 3 labs accredited by the National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories.
The court has said that the samples which are there in the possession and custody of the petitioner will be tested by 3 laboratories. If those laboratories find that if the lead is within the permissible limits, then only they will be allowed, that is Nestlé will be allowed to sell its product after a period of 6 weeks from the time when these laboratories conduct the fresh test.
The government has welcomed the court order.
It's a very welcome step because I've always maintained that clear-cut protocols need to be set down for the industry to follow, and which should be very clear for whether it's the testing labs, they should also know, and it's the industry also who should know how the testing is being done.
With the ban revoked, Nestlé India assured it will comply with the court order to undertake fresh tests. The ban on its popular snack had hit Nestlé India's earnings, and the company reported a standalone loss of 64.40 crores for the June quarter, its first quarterly loss in more than 3 decades. Meanwhile, the government's claim for 640 crore rupees in damages from Nestlé will be heard by the country's top consumer forum on Friday. The ruling of the quasi-judicial body will be legally binding. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now to take a look at what else is making news around the country and nationwide. The Supreme Court has issued a notice to the centre on a petition seeking to quash the appointment of the new CVC and Vigilance Commissioner. The petition filed by a Delhi-based NGO appealed that the appointments of KV Chaudhary and TM Bhasin breach the principle of institutional integrity. The Apex Court has sought a response within 2 weeks. The NCP has pulled out of the RJD-JDU alliance in the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections. The alliance turned sour after the party was offered just 3 seats for the poll. Out of the 243 total seats, the JDU and the RJD will contest 100 each, and the Congress will fight for 40. The captured terrorist in the Udhampur attack earlier this month was brought to Delhi today for further investigations by the National Investigation Agency. A Jammu Special Court on Monday handed over Naveed's custody to the NIA for 14 days. Naveed was captured alive by his hostages during the attack. Suspected Maoists have killed a village panchayat sarpanch and his deputy on suspicion of being police informers in Chhattisgarh's Bijapur district. The 2 men were killed on Wednesday night. 1 man was seriously injured in the attack as well. Some international news now. At least 44 people were killed and over 500 injured in 2 explosions in China's port city of Tianjin. Although the cause of the blast is still not clear, they originated at a warehouse site that stored dangerous chemicals. Environmental experts have warned of the long-term consequences from the explosions. Here's more.
Smoke billowing over burnt buildings, charred containers and vehicles. Scenes at China's industrial district of Tianjin where 2 explosions, the second one equaling 21 metric tons of TNT or the magnitude 2.9 earthquake, went off on Wednesday night. The explosions caused a huge fireball that could be seen from space. Buildings within a 2-kilometer radius had windows blown out, while office blocks were destroyed and hundreds of cars burnt out. 44 people are reportedly killed, including at least a dozen firefighters. Close to 520 people were injured, over 60 seriously.
I'd like to offer my condolences to the Chinese people for the terrible disaster that's occurred in Tianjin. I was in Tianjin yesterday morning and had an opportunity to see this vibrant city. I have every confidence that the authorities and the emergency services will do everything necessary to minimize the loss of life and to restore the city to normal working as soon as possible.
The blasts originated at a warehouse owned by a company that deals in dangerous chemicals. The reason for the blasts is not clear. Firefighting efforts were suspended on Thursday because there was no information about the nature of the dangerous goods stored at the warehouse.
像安全品的存放，像这个就是这个危险物品易燃易爆的这个存放，可能他们在操作上头肯定有失误的地方，造成了这么大的损失，所以这个我觉得肯定要追责。这个不光是企业，这个可能政府监管也可能有不到的地方。
我弟弟等于是我们是从北京知道他们这里发生爆炸的消息的，然后我们早上起来5点多马上坐车来到这里寻找他，直到现在没有结果。 说是有7辆消防车，然后和好多那个消防官兵都遇难了。
Residents who were forced to evacuate have taken refuge in makeshift camps. With the strong smell of chemicals hanging in the air and fears of contamination, environmental experts are calling for monitoring the long-term effects of the explosions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some sports now, and centuries from opener Shikhar Dhawan and captain Virat Kohli put India in a commanding position in the first test against Sri Lanka. India were bowled out for 375 runs in their first innings with a substantial lead of 192. Continuing fine form from day one, both the batsmen were involved in a 228-run partnership for the third wicket. Sri Lanka got some momentum back in the afternoon session, taking 4 wickets, including the centurions Shikhar Dhawan and Virat Kohli, and Ajinkya Rahane went out for a duck. Wicketkeeper Riddhiman Saha struck a useful half-century to push India's lead further. Spinner Tharindu Kaushal took 5 wickets for the hosts. In their second innings, the Lankan openers faltered yet again. Ashwin and Mishra took them out before the day ended at day 2 ended at 5 runs for the loss of 2 wickets. And Indian shuttler Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu entered the quarter-finals of the Badminton World Championship in Jakarta. World number 2 Saina defeated Sayaka Takahashi of Japan in straight games. 11-seeded Sindhu stunned Olympic reigning champion Li Shurai of China in 3 games to enter the last 8. In the women's doubles, the pair of Jwala Gupta and Ashwini Ponnappa also advanced to the quarter-finals after beating the Japanese duo of Kakiwa and Medea in the third round.
Upsetting the apple cart of the 6th ranked pair of Rai Kaka.
Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.